Welcome to another deep dive into the dramatic universe of our favorite daytime soap opera. Today is a day of profound tragedy and shocking twists as we explore a storyline that will irrevocably change the lives of the Spencer and Logan families. Grab a seat, because the emotional turbulence ahead is unlike anything we have witnessed in recent memory. The atmosphere in Los Angeles has been thick with corporate warfare, romantic entanglements, and family betrayals, but nothing could have prepared the residents for the chilling darkness that is about to descend. At the center of this impending doom is Will Spencer, a young man who has been desperately trying to navigate the complex web of his own life. Recently entangled in a bitter, emotionally exhausting love quadrangle involving Electra Forrester, R.J. Forrester, and Melissa Dylan, Will has been searching for clarity. He has been fighting for his relationship with Electra, battling the manipulative narrative spun by R.J., and trying to maintain his own moral compass in a world that constantly demands compromise. However, Will's innate sense of justice and his protective nature are about to lead him down a path from which there is no return, placing him directly in the crosshairs of a true psychopath. The fateful sequence of events begins in the quiet, shadowed corridors of what should have been a safe haven. Will, perhaps seeking a moment of solitude away from the relentless drama of Forrester Creations and the Spencer Publications empire, finds himself inadvertently walking into a nightmare. As he moves silently through the dimly lit space, the hushed, frantic tones of a desperate conversation catch his attention. It is Melissa Dylan, the newly appointed assistant to Daphne Rose Walton, and she is not alone. With her is Remy Price, a man whose sudden arrival in Los Angeles has been shrouded in mystery and unspoken threats. Will pauses, his instincts screaming that something is terribly wrong. He presses himself against the cold wall, holding his breath as the sinister nature of the dialogue bleeds into the quiet hallway. What Will overhears is not merely a workplace disagreement or a petty squabble. It is the chilling sound of psychological extortion. Remy Price, utilizing a voice dripping with venomous authority, is systematically dismantling Melissa's fragile sense of security. Will listens in horror as Remy explicitly details Melissa's dark, hidden past, weaving a narrative of secrets so devastating that they could not only destroy her burgeoning career at Forrester Creations, but potentially end her freedom. The blackmail is absolute and unforgiving. Remy is demanding that Melissa serve as his obedient pawn, threatening to expose her darkest sins to the world if she dares to defy him. The sheer cruelty of Remy's manipulation makes Will's blood run cold, igniting the fierce, protective Spencer fire that runs deep in his veins. Unable to stand by and watch an innocent woman be terrorized by a predatory manipulator, Will steps out from the shadows, his presence a sudden, jarring disruption to Remy's sinister game. Will's face is a mask of righteous fury as he confronts the blackmailer. He does not mince words, nor does he show a single ounce of fear. Will boldly declares that he has heard everything, every vile threat, and every piece of extortion that Remy has leveled against Melissa. He stands as a formidable shield between the terrified young woman and her tormentor, his voice echoing with the unmistakable authority of a Spencer. Will issues a definitive ultimatum. He is going to the police, and Remy's reign of terror is going to end tonight. In that breathless moment, the dynamic in the room shifts from a predator-prey scenario to a deadly standoff. Melissa is paralyzed, her eyes wide with a mixture of profound relief and absolute terror, understanding the lethal danger Will has just placed himself in. Remy, however, does not react with the panic of a common criminal caught in the act. Instead, his demeanor turns chillingly cold. A dark, empty void replaces the manipulative charm in his eyes. He looks at Will not as a threat to be feared, but as an obstacle to be permanently removed. The silence that follows Will's declaration is heavier than lead, a suffocating pause that seals Will's tragic fate. Will, confident in his moral high ground, turns his back on a monster and walks away to make the call that will end his life. As Will leaves the premises, the adrenaline of the confrontation pulsing through his veins. He is completely oblivious to the lethal machinery he has just set into motion. Remy Price is not a man who leaves loose ends, nor is he someone who allows the authorities to dictate his destiny. With calculated, terrifying precision, Remy begins his pursuit. He stalks Will through the winding, treacherous roads of the Los Angeles hills, a shadowy phantom closing in on its prey. The night is pitch black, the only illumination coming from the harsh glare of headlights cutting through the coastal fog. Will, driving with the intense focus of a man on a mission to deliver justice, does not notice the vehicle tailing him, its driver operating with the cold, mechanical intent of an executioner. The climax of this deadly pursuit occurs on a particularly dangerous stretch of the Pacific Coast Highway, a road known for its breathtaking views and unforgiving cliffs. Remy seizes his moment with ruthless efficiency. He accelerates, closing the distance in a matter of seconds, and executes a brutal, perfectly timed maneuver. The impact is catastrophic. The sickening crunch of metal against metal shatters the stillness of the night. Will's car is violently forced off the road, the vehicle spinning out of control before plunging down the steep, rocky embankment. The world becomes a blur of shattered glass, twisting steel, and deafening noise as the vehicle tumbles into the unforgiving darkness below. When the violent motion finally ceases, an eerie, devastating silence reclaims the canyon. Will Spencer, a young man with a brilliant mind, a fiercely loyal heart, and a future full of unresolved promise, is killed instantly in the wreckage. The brutal reality of the crash is horrifying in its finality. There are no dramatic last words, no miraculous survival against the odds. The life is simply violently extinguished from him. Remy Price stands at the edge of the cliff, looking down at the twisted, smoking ruin of Will's vehicle. There is no remorse in his eyes, only the cold satisfaction of a problem permanently solved. He has staged the perfect fatal accident, erasing the only witness to his crimes in one swift, merciless stroke. The horror of the night does not end with Will's tragic demise. Remy, his hands now stained with the blood of a Spencer, returns to the terrified Melissa Dylan. The psychological torture he inflicts upon her in the aftermath of the murder is arguably more devastating than the initial blackmail. Remy corners Melissa, his presence now radiating the terrifying aura of a cold-blooded killer. He leans in close, his voice a deadly whisper, and delivers his final, inescapable ultimatum. He informs her that Will is dead, and that her absolute silence is the only thing keeping her alive. Remy's manipulation reaches a sickening crescendo as he twists the narrative to trap Melissa completely. He makes it abundantly clear that if she breathes a word of what she knows, if she even hints at his involvement in the accident, he will not only expose her past, but he will frame her for Will's murder. He meticulously outlines how easily he can plant evidence, how quickly the authorities would believe that a desperate woman silenced a wealthy heir to protect her secrets. Melissa is plunged into an abyss of psychological paralysis. The guilt of knowing that Will die trying to save her is a crushing weight upon her chest, but the primal fear of Remy's retribution forces her into a suffocating, agonizing silence. She is now a prisoner in her own mind, complicit in the murder of her savior. The morning sun rises over Los Angeles, entirely ignorant of the tragedy that has unfolded in the dark. The news of Will Spencer's fatal car crash begins to ripple through the city, striking the Spencer and Logan families with the force of a catastrophic earthquake. At the Logan Fashion House, Katie Logan Spencer is riding the crest of a monumental professional triumph. Her debut collection, featuring the legendary designs of Eric Forrester, has just launched to global acclaim. She is surrounded by the glittering success she has fought so relentlessly to achieve, her ambition finally validated on the world stage. But in a single, devastating heartbeat, the glittering illusion of her success is shattered into a million irreparable pieces. The moment the authorities arrive to deliver the horrific news, Katie's world simply stops spinning. The physical reaction to the unimaginable grief is immediate and visceral. Her knees buckle beneath her, the elegant facade of the powerful fashion executive crumbling as she collapses to the floor in a symphony of agonizing sobs. The pain is a physical entity, tearing through her chest, stealing the breath from her lungs. This is not just the loss of a child. It is the violent severing of her own soul. The contrast between her soaring professional highs and this bottomless personal abyss is a cruel, mocking testament to the unpredictability of fate. Her son, her beautiful, strong, intelligent boy, is gone, and the universe suddenly feels entirely devoid of meaning. Bill Spencer, a man known for his ruthless business acumen and unyielding strength, is similarly brought to his knees by the tragedy. The mighty dollar bill is rendered powerless in the face of death. He gathers the broken pieces of Katie in his arms, his own tears falling freely as they share an agony that no parent should ever have to endure. The Spencer empire, the wealth, the power, the global billboards, none of it matters. The only thing that occupies their reality is the gaping, bleeding hole where their son used to be. The grief threatens to consume them entirely, a dark tide of sorrow that washes away all previous conflicts and ambitions, leaving only the hollow echo of a life cut brutally short. However, Katie Logan Spencer is a woman forged in the fires of adversity. She has survived heart transplants, betrayals, and vicious corporate warfare. As the initial, blinding wave of shock begins to recede, it is replaced by something far more powerful, a mother's primal, unerring instinct. The police report labels the crash a tragic accident, a simple loss of control on a dangerous road late at night. But Katie knows her son. She knows Will's meticulous nature, his excellent driving skills, and his cautious approach to life. The official narrative sits wrong in her gut, a discordant note in the symphony of her grief that she cannot ignore. Katie refuses to accept the neat, sanitized conclusion offered by the authorities. She sits in the quiet darkness of her home, her mind replaying every conversation, every detail of Will's recent life. She knows he was embroiled in the tense drama with Electra and RJ, but that does not explain a fatal crash on a remote highway. Her maternal intuition, a bond that transcends even death, whispers to her that her boy was taken from her. This was no accident. Someone deliberately extinguished the light of her life, and the realization sparks a terrifying, relentless fire within her broken heart. She may be drowning in sorrow, but she is also awakening to a profound thirst for vengeance. While Katie grapples with her maternal instincts, Liam Spencer is fighting a similar battle on a completely different front. The loss of his brother is a devastating blow, a sudden void in his life that leaves him reeling and unmoored. Liam has always been the analytical, deeply empathetic core of the Spencer family, and his profound grief quickly transmutes into a desperate need for answers. He cannot simply accept that Will's life ended in a random, senseless tragedy. Liam begins to look closer at the days and hours leading up to the crash, his sharp mind dissecting the timeline of events with the precision of a seasoned investigator. Liam's intense scrutiny inevitably leads him to the anomalies that surround Will's final days. He notices the sudden, highly convenient arrival of Remy Price in Los Angeles. Remy is a wild card, a man with no clear purpose whose presence coincides too perfectly with the rising tension at Forrester Creations. Furthermore, Liam observes the profound, unnatural terror radiating from Melissa Dillon. He knows that what was fiercely protective of Melissa and her current state of psychological paralysis is a glaring red flag. Melissa looks like a woman who has seen a ghost, or worse, a woman who is currently living with a monster. The pieces of the puzzle are scattered, but Liam's intuition begins to pull them together. Liam starts to dig into the strange, unspoken connection between Remy and Melissa. He realizes that Remy's influence over the young assistant is not born of professional courtesy, but of something far more sinister and coercive. The way Melissa flinches when Remy's name is mentioned, the way she avoids eye contact when Will's death is discussed, it all points to a dark, hidden truth that is begging to be uncovered. Liam Spencer is no stranger to uncovering dangerous secrets, having faced down some of the most manipulative figures in Los Angeles. He vows, standing over the memory of his fallen brother, that he will not rest until he unearths the absolute reality of what happened on that cliffside road. The stage is now set for a collision of epic proportions. On one side is Remy Price, a cold-blooded, calculating killer who believes he has committed the perfect crime and secured his absolute control over Melissa Dylan. He operates in the shadows, confident in his invincibility and the paralyzing fear he has instilled in his victim. On the other side is the combined, unstoppable force of the Spencer family. Katie, fueled by a mother's righteous fury and unerring instinct, and Liam, armed with a relentless determination to seek justice for his brother. They are preparing to wage a war that will tear through the very fabric of Los Angeles society. As the days turn into weeks, the tension in the city will reach an explosive boiling point. Melissa Dylan remains the tragic linchpin in this deadly game, holding the explosive truth that could either bring a murderer to justice or cost her everything she holds dear. Will Spencer's death has cast a long, dark shadow over Forrester Creations and the Spencer Empire, forever altering the destinies of everyone involved. The battle for truth, justice, and retribution has only just begun, and the fallout from this devastating tragedy promises to be the most gripping, emotionally charged saga we have ever witnessed. The truth may be buried under twisted metal and silenced by fear, but a mother's love and a brother's vow are forces that no amount of darkness